The basis of a food web in a freshwater system is the autotrophs, or another name for the autotrophs is the primary producers. So these are organisms that produce their own food. In other words, they don't have to consume something else to get food. So these are going to be plants. But remember, this is in water. So these are plants that are growing in fresh water. And so this is going to be things like algae and other plants you'd find in water. And then from there, the primary producers are consumed by primary and secondary consumers. So these types of organisms consume. They consume the producers, and the producers produce their own energy. So we have this arrow right here, which demonstrates a couple things. First, it just demonstrates that these organisms are consuming these organisms, but it also shows the flow of energy. So these primary producers have energy, and when they're consumed by the primary and secondary consumers, the energy is transferred to these organisms. So some examples of primary and secondary consumers are small macro invertebrates. So primary consumers are small macro invertebrates. So these are organisms without a vertebrae, but they are visible. And then the secondary consumers are going to be small fishes, frogs, as well as larger macroinvertebrates. And so then we see another arrow. So that means that these primary and secondary consumers are consumed by tertiary consumers. So these are larger fishes, herons, as well as many other types of organisms. So again, we have the arrow, which shows that flow of energy. And so the tertiary consumers and the primary and secondary consumers aren't producing their own energy. Rather, they're basically borrowing from the energy of the primary producers that was then transferred to the consumers, which was then transferred to the tertiary consumers. Now, primary producers, primary and secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers all eventually die. And so what happens is these autotrophs and the consumers die, and they contribute to the organic matter found in a freshwater environment. So eventually they all become organic matter. That's where every one of these is headed, to become organic matter. And so then this organic matter has this energy that can be used by primary producers, kind of starting the cycle over again. So that's the food web in a freshwater system.